everyone's doing a Mortal Kombat reaction to the new Mortal Kombat trailer that just came out, so I figured why not do one myself. It's been already a couple days since it came out, but I don't care. What I'm not going to do, however, is do a live trailer reaction thingy like everyone does. Like, whoa, look at that, oh my god. I've already seen the trailer twice, I'm not gonna pretend I didn't, but as someone who played Mortal Kombat since they were a wee dweeb, starting with games like Mortal Kombat 4 and Trilogy and continuing on with almost every game since, I feel uniquely qualified to critique this trailer, and if things are wrong, if things go right, to let the developers of the movie know that they are full of shit and that they're doing their job wrong, which is I imagine what most fans think. There's that kind of sense of entitlement, which is one of the indications that the franchise has gotten a bit too old for its own good, because if the earliest iterations of it have become so nostalgic to people that they're willing to become hostile in defense of that old, then it's kind of a losing battle. You're not going to please most people with it. You saw this happen with Star Wars, particularly with the prequels, which was not pretty. And I am as opinionated as the next person who considers themselves to be a super fan, but I also like to think that I am at least somewhat self-aware and capable of stopping myself when I get too nitpicky. That said, let's get into this. The first thing I see is the first thing I like, and that thing is Sub-Zero. That is a good first sign. It's a good first step. I love his design. I love the actor they cast. He's got the look. He's got the eyes, you know, the eyes are the most important thing for these ninja characters because that's all you see of them, really. And I like that they went the extra mile of whitening his eyes just a bit and bluing them up. I don't know if he has naturally blue eyes or not, but it works. He looks cold. He looks calculated. He looks like a killer, and that's exactly what you want for this character, for any iteration of this character. And the first special effect shot you see is of him freezing a shotgun as it fires, so it freezes the buckshot. It kind of like goes in slow-mo until it reaches halfway towards his face and he looks at it all nonchalant. And that was an amazing shot, not gonna lie. If I were the one that figured that shot out, that had that idea, I feel so smug, so full of it, and so proud, because it's a good shot. But then later on you see him do the sword thingy that he does in MK10, which is, I guess, iconic already. That's fine. While it's kind of stupid and not the way you would use such a superpower if you had it in real life, you just like fill people full of ice or just grab them and freeze them. It is cool, undeniably cool, and I cannot deny that my 14-year-old self would be very pleased to see this, because back then I was like really obsessed with like, why doesn't Sub-Zero make more swords out of ice and stuff like that and use ice in more creative ways? You don't need to. But yeah, some creative output should be allowed for this kind of thing. That said, though, the next thing he does is another thing from the games, which is very stupid in my opinion. When you have your enemy down, grappled, you take the time to not freeze him, not even create a weapon to chop his head off. You do an ice wall. It's slow, like it's... okay? Then you grab him and you throw him through the ice wall, which is literally the least effective thing you could do with that power. If someone gave you the task of figuring out the way to deal the least amount of damage to your opponent with that current skill set that you have, that would be the way. And I get it. They thought, you know, we should put this in, like, it's from the games. People love the games. We want to show that we want to make this the most game faithful adaptation, and it is. By the way, like, based on everything that I've seen in the trailer, it looks to be, this is the thing that distinguishes it from most other adaptations, and that is that it is the most faithful to the source material. Some of the characters seem like they were directly plucked out of the games and just put here with slight minor alterations to their costumes, and that's it. And that's a double-edged sword, because while some cool moments will come out of that, it also can get very campy very quickly, and having moments like shoving people through an ice wall that you take the time to create like a fucking mason, it just takes you out of the movie, I think. There should be a limit in live action to camp. I think it's okay to have quite a lot of level of camp and things that are larger than life and the things that don't make sense in the real world, but at the same time, it is live action. That's the point of it. It's more immersive, you know, than an animation. You go to see live action movies because you have trouble relating to non-live action, or because you want to be immersed more than you would otherwise if you watched an animation or something like that, or a comic book. Meaning that if you take too many liberties with logic for the sake of cool, you will take your audience out of the experience. And that's kind of the only thing that I'm concerned about regarding this new iteration. It sounds like a weird thing to gripe about. People are usually like, no, this isn't faithful enough. This doesn't respect the source material. Like, you hear that time and time again, to the point where the creators are like, all right, already, I get it. No creative license whatsoever. Just do things as they are in the source material. There you go. And then fuckers like me come along and say like, yeah, but Don't be too faithful, said no boyfriend ever. But going back to Sub-Zero a bit, I like the fact that they start off with Sub-Zero. Like, there's a lot of shots of him in this movie, which makes me think he's going to be a big player in the movie, which I love because it's usually Scorpion that gets the spotlight, and true enough, he gets the spotlight here, and I'm fine with that. He is by far the most interesting character. Love him, hate him. He's kind of like, he's got the Batman syndrome, as in he's gotten to be so popular and he's gotten to be the poster boy for an entire conglomerate of characters and an entire universe, and people kind of start to hate on him for that, but the fact that he's, you know, you can't deny the fact that he's an interesting character. Render unto Caesar what is Caesar's. That said, I like that we see a lot of Sub-Zero in this. And I hope that he will not just be a henchman. I hope that they will give him a bit of a personality. You know who doesn't have personality, though? Reptile. You know how I know? Because he gets killed by Kano. Kano! Let that sink in. Also, by the way, Kano is now part of the good guys? I think they're doing something interesting with Kano, and if I'm right, then I really like that, because Kano has kind of deserved more. He grew ever since that first Mortal Kombat movie. His personality grew and grew to the point where he's just hilarious in the games. He has some of the best lines. He's that scoundrel that you love to be around, even though he's a bad guy. And it seems like he's a war criminal or something like that. He still has that whole rivalry with Sonya, but he's presented as part of the roster for the good guys in the trailer, which means that he's going to be forced, maybe against his will, to partake in the tournament, and he'll end up helping the good guys in spite of himself or something like that. I think that's very interesting, and these kinds of pairings of good and evil, like where they have to work together, usually bear very interesting fruit. So if that's what they're doing with him, I love it. You know who I don't love, though? Reptile. Reptile looks like the love child between Kong and Godzilla. Probably wholly CGI, yet looks like a guy in a suit with an extra head on top of his head. I looked at the original Godzilla movie, the black and white one, just for reference, and that guy in that rubber suit looks more convincing than this. And I know, I'm getting to that point where it's like, you know, the thing that I talked about before, we only saw like a few frames, but I saw enough at the same time, because you know the other thing that is dumb? Showing fatalities in your trailer, and I get it, you want to cater to the fan base, but that leads me to the other unfortunately dumb thing about this franchise, and that is the fan base. It is time to own up to and face the fact that the fan base is filled with psychopaths. Probably 70% of them, and it's really sad when you feel forced as the creator of a movie adaptation to showcase blood and gore lest the people that you're making the movie for get angry, like Roman Colosseum style angry, and go on a rampage online. It's dumb, and I don't care how much this is steeped into tradition. Gratuitous violence will always just be gratuitous violence. I'm not saying that I'm unhappy with the fact that we have fatalities. Obviously, I think there should be. I don't think this should be a game for pussies. Sorry, a movie for pussies. That said, there's a fine line between respecting tradition and over-glorifying it. And here's the thing. This is the truest thing you'll hear about creators at large. Every creator probably feels this. There are only two reasons why you would want gratuitous violence or gratuitous anything in your creative work. Number one, because you use it as a marketing ploy because you think it'll draw eyeballs on your thing, and number two, because you're scared that if you don't, you're going to cause an outrage, and this is definitely more the second category than the first one. It has nothing to do with the creative process itself and what the creative person wants to do. It's just a means to an end. So it's a bit unsettling to see this kind of fatality thing, which I was a fan of back in the day. But even then, I didn't think it was a key part of the franchise. I was always more interested in the story and the mythology of this set of games / films. I guess the thing I'm trying to say is that most people associate Mortal Kombat, the first thing that comes to their mind when they say Mortal Kombat is violence and over-the-top fatalities. And that bothers me. I think that's kind of sad, but it was also necessary to get eyeballs on the game initially. And while I think it's cool that there are fatalities in the actual movie, I think it's dumb to put set fatalities in your trailer, because you know people are going to frame by frame it. And they're going to find out exactly how important certain characters are, and they're going to indeed see sometime, in some cases, the entire arc of a character. Like, I know now, because I frame by framed it, that Reptile is the jobber that he's always been, and that he gets taken out by Kano. He's dispatched to deal with the Earthrealmers, he infiltrates their facility, he fights Kano, Kano pulls his heart out. Oh, spoiler alert, blame the trailer, not me. I don't want to harp on this too long, but no one wants monstrous jobber Reptile. Everyone wants ninja Reptile because everyone is excited about that contrast between appearance and essence, and that's one of the key flavors that Mortal Kombat has to offer, because back in the day they only had 2 guys to capture the footage on, and they had to use the same ninja outfit and palette swap it with different colors. But then technology grew more advanced and they could do more cool stuff, and they give each of them a backstory, and Reptile became not so much a human but a lizard, and that guy became a smoke monster, and so on and so forth. It had this nice dichotomy between what you see and what the essence of it actually is. And that is one of the key draws of Mortal Kombat, in my opinion. It's the mystique of it. It's the mystery. It's the fact that this ninja that you're seeing is actually secretly an undead specter, and that ninja that you're seeing is actually an alien monster, and that this blue ninja that you're seeing that has the scarier look than death and abnormal powers and has probably the highest kill count out of all of them is actually human? Didn't see that coming. That's cool. But this is where the nitpicky stuff comes in, not from me, from other people, because I've watched other people react to this thing and they already go super in depth like, oh, no, that's not how Jax gets his metal arms. It's not Sub-Zero who freezes them off. It's Ermac who rips them off. Watch the game. Which is really stupid because the game version in itself is a retcon to an earlier version where it's not really disclosed how he loses his arms, so it doesn't really matter how he loses his arms. Sub-Zero is probably a key player in the story, and they didn't have the time for Ermac. Thank God for that, because there's already seems to be too many players, too many characters in this, and that's one of the biggest fears for me, is that it's going to be overstuffed and overcrowded, and there's going to be so many characters that they introduce now that they didn't need to introduce now, that will just be relegated to one-note jobbers that get dispatched in the first 5 minutes. Don't overplay your hand. You'll get your sequel. Just make sure that the characters you do choose to service, that you service them well. It doesn't have to be a high number. Oh, but they did Kano wrong, but it doesn't have the faceplate, and I want the faceplate. I don't care about the fucking faceplate. Plus, he has the faceplate probably already. He has the eye beam. And by the way, that scene where he does the eye beam from the wrong eye, that's just because it's reversed, most likely. I don't know why. They just thought it would look cooler from the other side. It's in the right eye, okay? And the faceplate is under the skin. It's probably fake skin. He's a fucking android. And it looks damaged, which means it's probably going to get torn off more and more. So you just have to be patient to see the final product. Melina's in it. She doesn't look like Melina. Moving on. I get that some of these characters will never look like their video game counterparts, because you're pretty much limited to casting people who have this kind of physicality to them, who have the background necessary to play these roles, who have been training in martial arts. Physicality is way more important in this kind of film than doing a Shakespearean-worthy performance. At the same time, we do have the technology nowadays to seamlessly blend an actor and their stunt double such that you can't notice as an audience, so I don't know. Hiroyuki Sanada, the guy who played Ujio in The Last Samurai, plays Scorpion in this one, which is a match made in heaven, truly. I don't know how they even got him to play this. Like, they either pitched him a really good movie idea, or they pitched him a really big paycheck. Regardless of how this movie turns out, I am glad that I got to see him as Scorpion. I can just take the movie, pick it apart, and crop his parts, and just make a mini movie with just his scenes, and then just sit back and be like, as I sip my cherry-flavored Dr. Pepper watching him kick ass. There's just something about that actor that he has his facial expression, his features, his eyebrows, his eyes, all the way to his mouth and jaw shape that give him that Tasmanian devil rage. Like, he could be looking, and he could have an extremely neutral expression for all he cares, and he would still have that kind of Scorpion vibe to him. It's totally Scorpion. We've got a lot of people in this movie. We've got Raiden, we've got Liu Kang, we've got Kung Lao, who actually looks like a Kung Lao for a change. We've got Goro, we've got Shang Tsung, we've got all those people. And I will say this about Raiden. People are bummed out about his look. Like, he doesn't look like a Raiden. He doesn't look like the games. He doesn't look like Christopher Lambert. He doesn't look like anything, okay? I have learned throughout the years to reserve judgment on any Raiden until I see the finished product, and here's why. Looks don't matter with Raiden. Now, bear with me. I know he looks kind of magoo, but if the actor demonstrates incredible charm and a great personality while playing the role, that is all that you could ask for a Raiden, from a Raiden. So he could look like anything. I don't care. He could look like a trash can. He could look like a power converter. If he's a snarky, smart-ass power converter, that's all I want. Because to me, the number one Raiden by far, even though I love Christopher Lambert's take on the character, the number one Raiden by far for me is Jeff Meek's portrayal in Mortal Kombat Conquest, the TV series. Why? Because he is hilarious. Seriously, there is this this Best Raiden scene compilation from Conquest. Watch that and tell me you didn't laugh at least thrice. There have been a lot of great scenes of characters introducing themselves in movies throughout history, like I am the architect, or I am Iron Man, or I am Sub-Zero. Moving on, you know what's gonna be an even worse character introduction? I am Cole. Who? Come on, man. Star-Lord, man. I'm Cole. There are two theories making the rounds currently in the internet. One of them is that they're trying to make a new age version of this franchise with new age characters catering to a new audience, which will end up being bullshit, or that Cole is secretly Johnny Cage. They just want to save that as the worst kept secret in cinema history. Now, you can decide which one of those you subscribe to and which one you believe is the case. There have been tweets from the creators saying that, you know, Mortal Kombat has a rich history of creating new characters out of the blue, and, you know, why shouldn't we create a new character in the film? Why should there just be new characters in the games? That's like making a new Batman film and casting the lead character in the role of Batman / Jonas Jenkins. Not Bruce Wayne, just Jonas Jenkins. Cole Harper, Jack Hunter as the new Batman for a new generation. That wouldn't fly, that's stupid. There is zero need to create something new when you have that rich of a roster of characters. These comic books have become basically modern myth tales. They are things that are meant to be retold over and over again, much like a Shakespearean play. There is zero need to reinvent the wheel and recreate characters from scratch, wouldn't give them different names or gender swap them. Similarly, there is zero need in a franchise that already has a cast of 80 characters, I want to say, 90? It's quite a lot. I don't know the exact number. But there is zero need for you to make more of those characters, especially in the context where most of those characters were serviced very poorly by previous adaptations, and even by most of the games recently released. I'm looking at you, Sindel. And don't get me wrong, if Cole turns out to be his own character, and if he turns out to be the most badass, funniest, wittiest, most intelligent person without also being a Mary Sue, I will totally embrace him and say, yeah, what a cool character. I can't wait to see him in the next Mortal Kombat game. They'll surely port him over. I also acknowledge, though, that there's a 0.0003% chance of that happening. But I don't know. I don't know anything. I will, again, wait for the finished product, which I will probably need about 3 beers to coax myself into watching, because I am, at the end of the day, very jaded. I do know this, however. The birthmark is dumb. That's like having a giant tumor sticking out of your head, pulling your head down to the side, and saying, no, that's a pimple. That's just a pimple. It's okay. In what universe are people dumb enough to believe that a stylized dragon is a birthmark? Something that looks hand-drawn, handcrafted, drawn after a particular art style. You know what they could have done, and this would have been really cool? They could have made it an actual birthmark that just maybe has a slight discoloration or a weird color to it, but it's small. It's like a regular birthmark. Except turns out, when he gets to the thing and the other guys analyze him, they look at it at a microscopic level through a lens, and they see that it actually forms the symbol of a dragon. That would have still been cheesy and campy, but it would have made more sense than for them to say that it's a birthmark. Might have been better than literally branding your actors with the logo. And he did the line in the end, the get over here, which is where the nitpick community strikes again. The nitpick police apparently wasn't said well enough, and I agree they could do, and they probably will still do, some audio processing, kind of like with the Bane mask thing in the end, to give him some reverb, some nice spatial effects. I don't think you need Ed Boon for every one of these. I know that's what the fan base likes, because as we established earlier, the fan base is fucking psychotic. I'm actually a big fan of how they did it in the previous adaptation, in Legacy, where they did it in Japanese in the native tongue. I think they should have went with that. Anyway, those are my thoughts. That's pretty much all I got. If you liked this video, then like the video. If you enjoyed it, leave a comment. Let me know if you think this movie's gonna be good or if it's gonna be garbage. If you have trouble waiting for this thing to come out and you have a penchant for aggression and edginess, I do have an EP out now. It is fresh. It's a collection of 7 tracks that all flow from one to the other seamlessly and are meant to be listened to in sequence, that all Voltron together to make one big continuous piece of music. And they actually sound like they could be decent fighting music. I could just fire Mortal Kombat up and put this in the background and it gets you pumped up. And it is called Cyberpump, and that's part of the reason. So if you are interested, do click on the Bandcamp link in the description. Check it out. Share this with your Mortal Kombat friends, and I'll see you guys next time.